What's up everyone, welcome back to Quest Mode. Today we're counting down the top 10 indie games for the PlayStation 4 as ranked by their Metacritic score. Now if you didn't know, this is actually part 2 of a series where I count down the top 20 indie games for the PS4, so if you're curious which games made the list but didn't quite crack the top 10, you can find that video right here or find the link in the description. Now I also want to thank everyone who subscribed to my channel. Last month alone, I went from 100 to nearly 500 subscribers, which is incredible. So thank you guys so much. But for now, let's get into it. The Binding of Isaac Rebirth is a twin-stick shooting roguelike that's challenging and pretty disgusting. You play a surprisingly agile baby who uses tears to blast the monsters that have taken over his filthy, procedurally generated basement. Yep, this game is weird, and it's all about your ability to survive based on the items you find, the enemies you encounter, and the speed of your reflexes. You see, every time through is an entirely new experience. I know a lot of games say that, but this game means it. For starters, it boasts 400 plus items. In one playthrough, you might find X-ray glasses that illuminate secrets, or a stopwatch that slows down enemies. Then, you honestly might never see them ever again. The same can be said for the nearly 200 enemies, each sporting their own unique look and attack pattern. It's fast-paced and tough, but the variety means that when you die and start over, you're guaranteed a fresh experience. It's very addictive, even more bizarre, and it's one of the most enduring indie hits of the past 10 years. Does a game have to be fun to be good? What Remains of Edith Finch answers this question with a first-person, exploration-driven adventure that fills its short playtime with as much heartbreak as it does mystery, and as much introspection as investigation. It's likely to go down as a classic, yet calling the game fun seems like a mischaracterization. The gameplay consists of wandering through the Finch family home as you uncover the lives and deaths of the prior residents. Who were they? How did they all meet their end? And why is their home now abandoned? These are the questions you face, and the stories they reveal are often unsettling, but always well told. Aside from the storytelling, what also sets this game apart is the house itself. The rich level of detail makes each environment feel authentic, with unique characteristics that spark genuine curiosity about the prior generations of the Finch family. Just be warned, while the stories you unfurl are worth the trip, they'll take you on a tour of not just the home, but of your emotional range. If you dive into What Remains of Edith Finch, be prepared to feel. If you need a reason to check out Bastion, consider that its developer, Supergiant Games, is one of the most critically acclaimed indie developers of all time. They've literally never released a game that didn't receive universal praise, and Bastion is the one that put them on the map. It's an isometric action RPG that pulls you in with addictive combat, rewarding customization, watercolor-inspired visuals, and sound design that puts most AAA games to shame. The story is relatively simple, but that's okay because it's the gameplay that will keep you hooked. From upgrading your equipment and exploring the levels, to learning new abilities and formulating different weapon loadouts, there's always something to do. As you set forth, each one of the game's unique levels builds itself beneath your feet, which makes for a visually engaging adventure and keeps you wondering what might rise next from the abyss. But if you're wondering whether Bastion is worth your time, rest assured. This game is awesome. Fez is perhaps the perfect example of how to reinvigorate old-school gameplay with mechanics that could only be possible on modern hardware. You see, this is a 2D platformer at heart, but it brings in the third dimension in a way that totally changes the genre. You can rotate each level 360 degrees left or right, and when you do, new platforms, tunnels, doors, and secrets are revealed. It's as if a traditional 8-bit platformer spliced its DNA with a Rubik's Cube, and the results are outstanding. And speaking of cubes, your goal in Fez is to hunt down the pieces of a celestial cube that has been scattered across the game's many stages. While the mechanics are unlike anything I'd seen before, the goal of tracking down collectibles gives Fez a familiar feeling of accomplishment. The only downside to this game is that the overwhelming map can also feel like a puzzle, but one that's rather tedious. Nonetheless, if you like brain teasers, there might be no better platformer on the PS4. This isn't my first video where Shovel Knight has made an appearance, and it likely won't be the last. This one game showed the entire gaming industry how to bring back 8 and 16-bit gameplay while tempering it with modern sensibilities that make it fun for just about anyone. If you haven't played Shovel Knight, it's a mashup of the Mega Man, Castlevania, and DuckTales games from the NES with an overworld map reminiscent of Super Mario Bros. 3. If that doesn't pique your interest, that's almost insulting. Anyhow, the level design is exceptional, and the game also includes an RPG progression system that makes things rewarding from start to finish. Plus, Shovel Knight's quirky tone is downright lovable. Despite all this, the game's best feature just might be its value. If you purchase Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, you get all the DLC, which includes 3 more full campaigns for just $25. That's like getting 4 games for the price of 1, and they're all fantastic. After describing Flower, I wouldn't be surprised if anybody reacted by asking the honest question, why on earth would I play that? The game has no clearly defined story, no conflict to push you forward, and no objective other than to experience the game's 6 levels. You start out as one singular petal of a flower and ride the wind through a breezy open field. As you pass other flowers, your collection of petals grows, and the world around you comes to life. Zen is a word that might sum up the experience best, and for those who like to find deeper meaning, it's not hard to see the experience as a metaphor for birth, growth, or self-transformation. But if that's too deep for you, it could just be a good way to chill out. While Flower is very short, coming in at just over an hour, the way its visuals, music, and controls combine to form an experience that's so simple yet beautiful is commendable and worth a shot. And by the way, it's just $7. Inside is... It's hard to put into words exactly what Inside is. On its surface, it's a puzzle platformer, but in its soul, it's a thought-provoking journey that's as determined to entertain you as it is to mess with your head. You play as a nameless boy exploring a strange and sinister compound for reasons that go entirely unsaid. You'll encounter dogs that want to eat you alive, prisoners under mind control, and other unsettling scenarios that are best left unspoiled. As you wander through the environment, you solve puzzles which are extremely well balanced. You might get occasionally stumped, but the solutions always reveal themselves with due effort. Still, what makes Inside stand out is the story and where it takes you. It's so unpredictable, ambiguous, and strange that you can't help but wonder every so often what the hell is going on. Is Inside trying to make a point? Is it an allegory? A metaphor? Every player will come away with different answers. I maintain that this game is not for everyone, but if you have the taste for a clever, macabre, and existential experience, you shouldn't let this game go unplayed. Now that it's been several months since I played Celeste, what sticks out most is how the gameplay and story are so closely interwoven and how they complement one another. Your quest is challenging, yes, but watching the main character, Madeline, push through her struggles throughout the emotional 10-hour story motivated me to stick with her. To give you an idea of how the game is structured, each of its 8 levels are broken up into smaller rooms that range everywhere from moderately easy to flat-out ridiculous. But they never felt impossible or overly frustrating thanks to instant respawns and near-perfect level design. But again, the reason I was so willing to press on was due to the fantastic writing and character animations that made Madeline feel real and relatable. When she laid her emotions bare, it made me understand and care for her. Had I left the game unfinished, I would have felt like I'd abandoned her. But if all this storytelling mumbo-jumbo doesn't do it for you, know that Celeste levels are expertly crafted and littered with collectibles, secrets, and some truly surprising Easter eggs. It really is 2D platforming at its finest. And if the challenge turns you off, there's a robust assist mode, so there's really no excuse not to play Celeste. Undertale is probably the most unique game on this list, and that's saying something. It's an RPG filled with hilarious comedy, branching storylines, amazing characters, and a combat system that's unlike anything you've ever seen. You play as a child who's fallen into a lost world filled with monsters, and it's now your job to escape. It's pretty basic, but the great writing, strange world, and lovable cast will keep you interested. As for the combat, it takes place in a black and white presentation that looks fit for an Atari 2600, but man is it awesome. You defend yourself by controlling a simple heart, trying to avoid obstacles and projectiles in a bullet hell style minigame. You can then either destroy or spare your enemies. This is important because the story plays out differently whether you play as a pacifist or a murderous maniac. And if the peaceful route doesn't sound fun, let it be known that you can literally flirt with your enemies. That right there should tell you how seriously Undertale takes itself. I could reveal more about the game, but I should stop there because honestly, it's best to go into this one knowing as little as possible. I've got a confession to make. There are a couple of games on this list that I'd personally rank higher than Journey, but I can't deny that it's a masterpiece, and that's fitting because it feels like a playable work of art. You start out guiding a nameless and enigmatic character over the dunes of a barren yet beautiful desert. As you progress through the landscape, your objective becomes clear. Reach the peak of a mountain far, far in the distance. That's it. That's your journey. But the simplicity of the story and gameplay mean there's little to distract you from one of the most beautiful experiences in all of video games. One moment where I surfed down a river of sand flowing through a long-lost desert ruin was so striking it brought me to tears. And it's all made more impactful by the fact that you can share the surprises with practical strangers. The multiplayer component is subtle, providing no introduction to your partner or any practical means of communication. Yet as you traverse the world together, there's a shared understanding that what you are experiencing is at the very least one of the most inspired video games of all time. Well, thank you guys so much for watching the entire video. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like and let me know in the comments. And if you want to see more top 10 videos like this and more indie game content, definitely subscribe to my channel, and we'll see you in the next video.